Hello. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to use Office scripts to extract data from this table by applying filtering. So the data here contains some basic scheduling information with station, shift, date, responsible person, and some reason notes. So the goal is to come up with an object structure such as the one that I'm showing here. And what it is an object with unique values as keys for the station. So if you switch back, to the table, you'll see that I have three unique station values, station 1, 2, and 3. For each of the unique values in that station column, I want to create an array of objects. So here, station 1 has different objects within the array here, and each of them represents the information contained in that row. For instance, if I go to station here, station 1, I'm going to get this particular row with information with key value pair that matches that of the column and value pairs here as shown here. So this is sort of my output, desired output that I want. And the reason for this may be many. One could be that I want to feed this into another script or another Power Automation flow and have that consume this. And once it is in an object structure, it is very easy for such actions to manipulate and use and consume this information. All right. So that's sort of the basic goal. And I know at the outset that I need at least the ability to filter based on this column. And one way to do this would be to actually go through, read all the values, and then come up with this desired structure. Another way could be to just use the Excel filtering capability. So that's what I'm going to do. So to begin with, I'll start out by recording an action to filter. So I started the recording here, and then I will go here and then add filter. And I'll say I'm gonna pick, let's say, station 1, right? And then I'm gonna clear the filter. So I did two of the actions, and I think I'll stop here, and it gives me a base to work with, and then construct sort of the rest of the logic that I need. So here you'll see that it has extracted the table data in the form of getting the columns and getting the filter, applying the filter with the value of station 1, and then it's also cleared the filter. So that, I think, is a good start for me. So I will comment the code for the time being while I go and do the rest of the work. So here it is one, it is getting the table that I need. So it's table 1. So that's good. Next, what I want to do is get sort of unique values of the station in an array, so I can use that to get construct the object that I'm looking for. So I'm going to create, let's say, key column values, and it is a string array. And from the table, and I'm going to get the column by name, and I'm going to put the station as a key. So that's a column that I'm interested in. And then I'm only interested in the data part of the range. So we'll get the range between total and header, and I will get its values. And I am going to map over this. So what this is doing is just giving me a list of unique values within this column. So I can quickly confirm that by displaying this. and I should get station 1, 2, and 3. Right. Well, I will get all the values here. Now, what I want to do is to get the unique values out of it. And for that, I will use the filter method available on the JavaScript array objects. So on this array of all the station values, I'm going to filter. The filter takes a callback which receives the value, the index, and the entire array object. And on that, I'm going to check the condition that index of the value, the current value, is equal to the index. So if I have multiple values in the array, it is going to only keep the first one. So it's going to ignore the remaining. There are many ways to sort and get the unique values. This is probably one of the easier ones. And now if I display the unique keys, unique stations, I should only get, there seems to be an issue here. Why? It needs to be a statement. So okay, so this should do it. Okay, all right. Okay, so now that I have the basic logic in here that extracts the unique station values, I can go back and now construct the rest of the logic. What I want to do next is to figure out how to get an object structure for each of these rows. So if I go back to the desired structure, so if each instance in this array, I have the key value pair, the key being the column header value, and then the value is the actual cell value here. So to do that, I will write a helper function. I'll call it, let's say, get object from, let's say, values. So it is going to accept the values as a string two-dimensional array. And what it's going to return is an object. So to figure out what that object is going to look like, I will define a basic interface. And this is just a key value interface. And in JavaScript, you can do that with key as a string and then the value as a string. So what this is saying is that, hey, any generic key object value pair will do. And it is going to return an array of basic objects. So which means for however many rows we have, it's going to return an array of the objects where the key is the column value, the column header value, and then the value is the actual cell value of the column, right? So now I'm going to define the final array object that I will return, and then I will first extract the values of the key. So to hold that, I need a temporary array. So I'll call it object keys. So this is going to be a string array type. So this will be the place where the header values are going to be stored. I'm going to now iterate over each of the rows. Given the knowledge that the header row is always going to be the first one, so I can easily check, hey, if I'm on the first row, save all the header values into the holding area for object keys and just continue. So there's no need to go further for that instance of the row. So anything from this line onwards will only be applicable to the actual data rows. So to construct, I will create a temporary object, and then I'm going to iterate over each of the column values. So let me create, let j less than length of the number of columns. And now on the temporary object, the key is going to be the jth column, and the value is going to be the current row and column combination. Right? So this end of this loop, there'll be this object will be populated with key value pairs for that particular row, and then I'm going to just store that in the object array that I created as a way to return it. So I will push that. Right. So this basically achieves what I want. At the end, I just want to return the object array. Right. So once I do that, I just need to call this function. So hopefully this will give me each an object array for each of these data rows. Right. There is an error. Right. I need to pass the parameter, which is going to be, let me first extract the values. So I'm going to get all of the range values. I'll have to modify that a bit later, but for now, to test this, I'll create, I'll send the entire range values and input into that function. So you'll see that for each row I have a new item, and it contains the information that I'm looking for. Okay. Okay, so now that I have the basics for converting an array of data values into an object, I now need to apply the filter and apply it in a way so that I can collect for instance, only the rows pertaining to, say, station 1, and then convert those rows into an array of objects, and then do the same thing for each of the unique values. I already have the unique values, so next what I'm going to do is for each of the unique values, I will apply the filter, and I can borrow the code here from my recorded script, and instead of hard coding this, I will simply use the key value. Okay, now that I've applied, I want to get the range that is visible, and you can do that using the get visible view off of the range. So if I go back to the table, get the entire range, and on this range I want to say, hey, get me the visible view. And visible view is very similar to range, except that it's only giving me what's visible on that range with some methods that are applicable. So it's not exactly range, but it's sort of a view on top of the range. And then I'm going to collect the values of the objects for each of that. So before that, I will declare my final output. I'll call it return object. And the structure of the return object is going to be this. So I'll define an interface. I'll call it return, say let return template. And the key again is going to be a string, which is the station value. And the value is going to be an array of the rows in the form of objects. So that is the same that the key object from values is returning, right? So I will say that, hey, this output, final output, is of type this return template. Now the only thing left for me to do is so for each of the keys, I want to call this particular method, but I have to make sure that instead of all of the range, I just need to send the range views values as string two-dimensional array object. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So at the end of this, for each of the unique keys, it's going to apply this logic, and then it's going to collect the rows and put that back into the return object with the key value being the station unique values. And then at the end, I don't want to leave the filter as is, so I will clear the filter. I'll again copy this code. So this will clear the filter. And then before I return this, I will simply display values, and I'll also display the stringified version of. Right. Okay, I can now remove these, save it. So what I expect to see is an object with 3 separate keys, one for each values, and then as a value, I expect to see an array of objects representing each of these rows. So if I run this, okay, so I have the structure as I expect, I see station 1, 2, and 3, each containing 6 values. Let's just double check. That seems to match the data that's here. Maybe just to double check, I will remove 1 from 1 and 2. So let me rerun. I expect to see the updated. Yeah, as you can see, 1 and 2 got reduced. So it looks like it is running okay. And this is the string representation of that part. Now I can return that value, and a future script in a Power Automation can consume that and use that for performing any action that's required on this object structure. Okay, so that concludes the presentation. Thanks for watching.